Hello, and welcome to another edition of As the Blade Turns. My name is Dave Leese, and for those of you who are new here, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe. We are in crisis. Russia will not host the Grand Prix in figure skating in the 2023-24 season. The decision was made at a meeting of the Council of the International Skating Union, which took place on January 16th. This season, the Russian Grand Prix was also cancelled due to the situation in Ukraine. The Russian Gaslighting Committee immediately stood at attention upon hearing the news. They took the information as stoically as expected. Director General of the Russian Figure Skating Federation, Alexander Kogan, commented on the news that Russia will not host the Grand Prix stage in the 2023-24 season. It's a pity, because Russia perfectly knows how to hold competitions, and many would be interested and useful to see how it goes, and maybe learn, Kogan said. Olympic champion in ice dancing, Natalia Besmianova, commented on the news as well. I think it was expected. It seems to me that they can easily change their decisions. In any case, I really hope so, because without Russian skaters, the competition is very poor. We are talking about autumn. There is still a lot of time ahead, said Besmianova. Now, what's interesting is that no one has actually said that the Russian skaters aren't going to be allowed. They have only said that the Grand Prix isn't going to be held there. There has been chatter that perhaps there could be some sort of neutral status. But the Gaslighting Committee remains in high alert and in pure victim mode. Honored coach of the USSR and queen of the Gaslighting Committee, Tatiana Anatolievna Tarasova, criticized the International Skating Union for refusing to hold the Grand Prix in figure skating in Russia. Of course, there were hopes that international tournaments would return to us, but the decision is expected. Apparently, they want only their athletes to win, but this method will not work. They are godless. I wish it was the same with their children. Tarasova was quoted by Our Sport. They only lose a lot from this. We have full stands at figure skating competitions. They don't have that. Therefore, it is more harmful for them not to hold the Grand Prix in Russia. If they don't want to, then they will lose viewers. For us, the main thing is that our skaters participate in competitions. It is not so important where the Grand Prix will be held. It is important that we participate. Journalist Alena Kostornaia commented on the news that Russia will not host the Grand Prix during the 2023-24 season. The decision to deprive Russia of the right to host the Grand Prix is in fact a decision about nothing. It does not contain anything new, except that it dispels the illusion of those who sincerely believed that the situation with the admission of Russian athletes to international competitions could change in the near future. For skaters, this decision on one hand does not change the current competitive situation in any way. It remains exactly the same as we observed this season, with the stages of the internal Grand Prix, Channel 1 Cups, and other animation. On the other hand, the officially announced position of the ISU, or rather not even it, but the second consecutive season of isolation, is a kind of powder keg for the Russian Figure Skating Federation. The point is not even that athletes can start looking for options for changing their sports citizenship. This process will not be massive, if only because it is always much easier to go with the flow than to change one's own life. And the fact that the format of the Russian Grand Prix, which was implemented last fall, was clearly not in demand by the public. In the second version, interest in tournaments and figure skating in general will probably decline even more. And this is a much bigger problem than the right to host competitions, Vaitsekhovskaya wrote. Honored coach of Russia in figure skating Alexander Zhulin commented on the news. It is a no-brainer that the Grand Prix will be taken away from us, and taken away like everything else, Zhulin said. European champion in ice dancing Sergei Novitsky spoke about the refusal of the ISU to hold the Grand Prix stage in Russia. We are all adults, and we understand very well there were no prerequisites for easing sanctions against our athletes, including figure skaters. Against the backdrop of everything that is happening, it was foolish to expect that they would also hold the Grand Prix stage in Russia and then return us to international competition. In my opinion, it is quite obvious that there was nothing to hope for. At the same time, we have always coped well with the organization of the largest tournaments. Yes, we have great athletes. Of course, world sport has lost from their absence, but now nobody cares, Novitsky said. Now mind you, it is amazing that Novitsky and the Russians are playing the victim card, as they themselves are the aggressor in the situation in Ukraine, and in the doping situation. Two-time Olympic figure skating champion Evgeny Plushenko spoke about the removal of Russians from international tournaments. Performance on the international arena without Russian athletes is not a competition, but a light mode. Everyone knows perfectly well that Russian athletes are one of the most powerful and strong rivals. It is better to skate with strong opponents than to win with one goal. It is foolish to restrain Russian athletes by including sport in a political game. All our opponents are shouting that sport is out of politics, but we all see perfectly well politics is number one, and she outgrew all the norms in general, said Plushenko, a coach who is overseen by the FMBA and the Ministry of Sport, which goes all the way up to Vladimir Putin. Dmitry Savishev, chairman of the State Duma Committee on Physical Culture and Sports, answered a question about a possible change of citizenship by Russian figure skaters. Will the continuation of the removal of Russian skaters from international competitions lead to a mass change of citizenship by domestic skaters? Конечно нет. Of course not. Nobody is going anywhere. Is it possible in this case to move to professional ice shows? Russia is doing a lot to provide an opportunity to train and compete for athletes of all levels, from initial training to professionals. Unfortunately, how temporary this is, no one can say for now. But now there are opportunities to compete. The international and Russian federations are negotiating possible forms of participation of our athletes. Athletes from Russia are provided for financially. We all understand perfectly well that any athlete dreams of participating in the World Championships and the Olympic Games. In this situation, this is not possible. In some sports, our athletes are already allowed. There are certain difficulties in figure skating, but this will in no way affect the mass transfer of athletes from Russia. Single transitions from one federation to another occur not only in Russia, but in all countries. Someone got married or moved. There are different reasons. Is it possible to say that the lack of international starts will lead to a lack of motivation among Russian skaters? The absence of international competitions, of course, does not change the positive mood, but the motivation is definitely not reduced. I constantly communicate with athletes and coaches from my federation. Despite the expectation of an early end to this illegal situation with the exclusion of our athletes, the motivation of athletes does not decrease. They both participate in competitions and continue. The training process does not stop. Well, Sambo 70 President Renat Lyshev commented on the news that Russia will not host the Grand Prix stage. Because remember, the motivation hasn't decreased at all. They're participating in competitions. Nothing is stopping, nothing has changed, and yet, this is a catastrophe. The attack on Russian sports and figure skating continues. It is a pity that this happens, but politics is changeable, and soon everything can change in our direction. If our skaters are not allowed to compete, then we will hold out and not lose the ability to compete. We will remain the best in the world thanks to our skating school. We are the best with a 10-year margin, so there is no need to worry that our class will fail due to non-participation in international competitions. We will still be the best, Lyshev said. Well, Sochi 2014 Olympic champion of the team event, Yekaterina Bobrova, shared her opinion about Russian ice dancing, which perhaps she implies is not the best in the world right now. Of course, what is happening now in dancing is very painful for me to watch. But perhaps now there is some temporary recession. This happens often in the post-Olympic seasons. For in general, in 2010 we had a decline in the girls. And in pairs, there was also a change of generations. Now we have beautiful girls and top couples. But dances have a slight decline. But it seems to me that in dancing, this whole story, as long as we do not have international competitions, can be turned into a plus. We have time to prepare, and when we enter the international arena, and I believe that this should happen, and I hope that it will happen soon, we will already have strong duets. Couples break up, partners change. At the recent Russian championship, almost half of the duets were new and experienced. Now, the couples are not in great shape, so this time should be used to prepare for competition for competitive dance couples. Personally, I really hope for the return of Stepanova and Bukin. Now they took a break to heal their wounds, to breathe a little. They're entitled to it, and I really hope they come back, and everyone will be drawn to this professional couple. Well, earlier, Dmitry Savichev said that this change of federations is not just for Russia. This happens when people get married. Well, it's so interesting, because as soon as Russia was banned from international competition, Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin got married. And today, it was reported that Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin considered the option of continuing their careers at the Georgian national team. According to the RA Novosti agency, talks about the potential transfer of the dance duet to Georgia were held in the fall, but negotiations ended unsuccessfully. Earlier this week, news broke that Davis and Smolkin were considering a move to the Israeli national team. In the summer, it was reported that the skaters could move to the U.S. team. The father of figure skater Gleb Smolkin, who dances on the ice with Diana Davis, commented on the information that his son and his partner were considering the option of joining the Georgia national team in the fall. To play for Georgia, you must at least be a citizen of this country. Gleb is neither a citizen of Georgia nor an Israeli citizen. Therefore, draw conclusions from here, said Boris Smolkin. Meanwhile, no one is saying that Gleb is a citizen of everywhere, though he did apply for permanent resident status in the United States. They're merely saying that he was considering representing another country, countries that do allow Russian athletes to change sports citizenship. This couple is trading citizenship opportunities with more fervor than Allison Reed and Isabella Tobias fighting over a partner at the Ice House. Now the Georgia link is no surprise, as Diana Davis and Eteri Tudberidze have Georgian lineage. Eteri Georgievna Tudberidze was born February 24, 1974 in Moscow, the youngest of 5 children. She is half Georgian, a quarter Russian, and a quarter Armenian. Her daughter was born in Las Vegas, and her son-in-law is at least a little bit Jewish. He might know how to play the dreidel game and may have lit a menorah. Think of the passport possibilities for Eteri's daughter and son-in-law. Earlier this fall, the president of the Georgian Figure Skating Federation spoke about the possible switch of Davis and Smolkin to Georgia. We in Georgia are incredibly proud of Eteri Tudberidze, and if I have the opportunity, I will try to help her. Now it's interesting, because it was reported that the negotiations broke down. So how much did you help Eteri, Miriam? Meanwhile, Boris Chait, who could benefit from all of this, is laughing about the news the same way the rest of the world laughed when his daughter was awarded a world medal in ice dance while skating on her toe picks. I don't have that information. To be honest, I've been laughing for the 3rd day. No one has contacted me regarding this matter. Would the Federation like to see such a couple? The Israel Federation would like to win $1 million in the lottery so that we can live easier and we have the means to send children to competitions. It's wrong to talk about getting someone. We don't make the decision, said Chait, who makes the decision to hold the Israeli National Figure Skating Championships in a less than standard size ice rink, even though a standard size ice rink is present in the mall within the country. Meanwhile, the skating world continues to discuss the possibilities of Alena Kostornaia as a pair skater. The skater has been photographed on vacation wearing a cast on her arm. This is the 3rd cast she has had on an upper appendage in under 18 months. Coach Elena had warned Costernaya against doing pairs due to the risk of injury. Costernaya has had fractures to the leg, back, wrist, and fingers since a senior skater. She even appeared to be struggling during the Team Tuberidze ice show just prior to the 2020 World Figure Skating Championships that were canceled due to coronavirus, which Costernaya was favored to win. As a junior, she had to withdraw from the World Junior Figure Skating Championships, with the official reason being an injury, and the widely rumored reason being an issue with her kidneys that would ultimately change the course of her Ultra C element acquisition at Team Tuberidze. But Costernaya remains one of the most intriguing members of the Russian figure skating community and is beloved around the world. And I can think of no one we would welcome to the pair world with more enthusiasm, given her penchant for arguing with Tuberidze, Plushenko, Rudkovskaya, and now Buyanova. This is the kind of girl who could follow in the great line of friendly, entertaining pair skaters like Ksenia Stolpova and Alyona Savchenko. And she is already vacationing with her partner. We can imagine she could change those with as much frequency as Diana Davis changes potential citizenships, and Cheryl Burke would be rumored to date her cast members on Dancing with the Stars. Perhaps Costernaya could change countries as well. Due to the depth of Russian pairs, it would be difficult for her to make an impact in the top 3 on the national team. That said, what she already displayed in the Russian ice shows would likely medal at the national championships of many countries throughout the world, especially those countries being considered for citizenship by Davis and Smolkin. Many are implying that this is all just for publicity and performances in the shows. And if Costernaya is to be to Ice Age what Olivia Smart is to Dancing on Ice, then we as a skating community are all for it. Ice Age is an esteemed show where Evgenia Medvedeva nearly made out with her partner on every episode last season, only for him to ghost her and escape to Dubai when they were all but set up to win this season. It is a show where Elena Ilinik acted out the invasion in Ukraine when her Ukrainian-born husband has tattoos of Vladimir Putin on his chest. And it is a program where Tatiana Navka spread dirt on her face and pretended to be a Holocaust victim. This esteemed program was made for someone like Costernaya, who was originally the most banished girl in Russian figure skating after leaving Team Tuberidze for a second time. Yet now that distinguishment belongs to Alexandra Trusova, whose father and agent are fighting with First Channel, the official broadcaster of Russian figure skating. And while the Russian skating establishment is gearing up for this weekend's First Channel Cup, Sasha Trusova is on vacation in Dubai. Now, while this may not be good skating politics, it may be strategically brilliant for Trusova, who appeared to be very injured during the fall. The Russian skating establishment was not forgiving of her injuries or her lack of quadruple jumps. Meanwhile, other skaters like Ksenia Sinitsina have suffered injuries and have fallen like dominoes. Kamila Valyeva, Adelia Petrosian, Sofia Akatieva, and Elizaveta Tuktamysheva will participate and earn prize money. Sadly, this year we will not see a showdown between team captains Evgenia Medvedeva and Alina Zagitova. The injured Mark Kondratyuk will be a team captain along with Zhenya. Sasha Trusova still has an opportunity to compete at the Russian Cup final in March, and the skating world waits for her to return to health and her top form. Her personality, like her fire engine red hair, is sorely missed, yet we think it may take her a few months to heal her injuries, restore her motivation, and return to top form for next season. Honored coach of the USSR, Tatiana Tarasova, shared her expectations for the First Channel Figure Skating Cup. I look forward to great competitions. Will the tournament lose in entertainment due to the absence of Trusova and Shcherbakova? No. The tournament will be spectacular and wonderful, Tarasova said. The competition will be held on January 21st to the 22nd at the CSKA Arena in Moscow. Former figure skater Katerina Gerbot shared her expectations for the Channel 1 Cup. In this situation, everyone is waiting for this tournament. It is close enough to the European Championships in terms of time, and our athletes do not deviate from the schedule. We all hope that the situation will change and we will be able to play at all tournaments. At the Cup, you can see how ready our guys are, how much they manage to keep their motivation in themselves. I know that all the guys are well prepared. Once again, you can show the audience, yourselves, and international competitors who also watch this tournament that in Russia everything continues to live. No one gives up and nothing dies. Tournament expectations? Preparing and going to surprise absolutely everyone. Let's see what will happen. In any case, the tournament will be very interesting. Well, three-time Olympic champion, State Duma Deputy Irina Rodnina disagreed. I can't say if attention to the tournament will fall due to the absence of Shcherbakova and Trusova. I don't work in TV. I don't know what they expect. I can't say whether the absence of Trusova and Shcherbakova will affect the tournament level. I didn't watch last year, and I'm not going to this year either. Personally, this is not interesting to me. Figure skating coach Tatiana Mishina believes that Elizaveta Tuktamysheva, the Empress, can land a quadruple toe loop in competition, most likely at the Russian Grand Prix final. Elizaveta Tuktamysheva, Evgeny Semenenko, and Gleb Lutfulin have already left for Moscow today to participate in the First Channel Cup. How they prepared will be seen from their performances. In any case, everyone went with a desire. Everyone is set to perform. Will Tuktamysheva try to perform a quadruple toe loop at the First Channel Cup? I think so not. She had previously performed in the show over the holidays. Then she was a little sick. It is unlikely that she will now jump a quad. Perhaps she will show it by the Grand Prix finals, said Mishina. The First Channel Cup will be held January 21st to the 22nd. The final of the Russian Grand Prix on March 3rd to the 5th. The Russian Gaslighting Committee is very concerned about Anna Shcherbakova's chances of winning Skater of the Year at the International Skating Union Awards. Like most toxic personalities, the Russian Skating Committee has a particular way of embodying the role of both the hero and the victim in any situation. In this particular case, they are very concerned about an internet awards show that is only in its second incarnation. And who can even remember the first one, aside from the irony of Viteri Tuberidze earning Coach of the Year, just months before setting the sport on fire with the flames of infamy at the Olympics in Beijing. Shcherbakova is nominated in the Most Valuable Skater category, alongside Beijing Olympic champions Nathan Chen and Gabriela Papadakis and Guillaume Cizeron. The award ceremony will take place on February 5th in Zurich. Honored coach of Russia Alexander Zhulin assessed the chances of Olympic champion Anna Shcherbakova to win the ISU Skating Awards. Earlier, the Russian woman was included in the short list of nominations for Most Valuable Skater. Shcherbakova's chances of winning are minimal, since she is Russian. I am practically sure that this political trend against Russia will continue, said Zhulin. Olympic champion in ice dancing Natalia Besmianova assessed the chances of Anna Shcherbakova to win the ISU Skating Awards. I think that the chances of success are equal. The only thing is that Papadakis and Cizeron and Nathan Chen have been champions for many years and have been at the highest level in figure skating for much longer years. And Anya broke in there 2 years ago. She is the youngest of them, and it will be difficult for her to win. It's already great that she broke into the top 3. This can be considered a well-deserved success, said Besmianova. Honored coach of the USSR Tatiana Tarasova is not so happy like a bronze medal like Natalia Besmianova. She also assessed the chances of Olympic champion Anna Shcherbakova to win the ISU Skating Awards. Those, Chen, Papadakis, and Cizeron, have more world championships won, so they have more chances to win in this nomination. They have been skating for many years. They enjoy the people's figure skating love. Anya too, but she didn't skate very much. I don't want to say that, but they participated in the promotion of men's single skating, in ice dance. Papadakis and Cizeron have been skating for many years. They're unbeatable. But Anya is also an Olympic champion and world champion, said Tarasova. A few weeks ago, the very blunt journalist and Olympic champion in platform diving, Alena Kostornaia, appreciated the activities of Olympic champion Anna Shcherbakova outside of sports. Anya Shcherbakova is unique, even in her post-sport incarnation. She, unlike all of her predecessors since 2014, does not make attempts to convince fans that she will return to the sport. She does not declare her own readiness, just about to start her usual workouts. She finally does not hide the fact that she really likes her current life and the currently truly limitless opportunities to develop in any direction. In a word, Shcherbakova behaves absolutely naturally, as a person who has achieved major titles should behave. And most importantly, Anya doesn't even have the feeling that Alina Zagitova and Medvedeva, Sotnikova, Lipnitskaya used to incinerate in their time, that they owed something to someone. For example, that they owed all of us to return at all costs. I believe that is why we do not have a sense of loss, a desire to feel sorry for the athlete. It is impossible to feel sorry for a person who is so happy. Good luck, Anya, Vaitsahovskaya wrote in her Telegram channel, who was congratulating Anya as telling her that we don't really miss her or feel sorry for her. Congratulations. Apolinaria Panfilova and Dmitry Rylov, who competed in pair skating, spoke about the injuries that led to the end of their sports careers. What happened to your back in the end? Everyone knows about the operation and the screws in your spine. Could this have been avoided somehow? Dmitry Rylov, impossible. When I was operated on and I went to Moscow for a medical clearance, the doctors asked me, "Are you ready for sports? We can give you a maximum of 3 years, but you will perform under blockades." I said, "Then why did I have the operation if I now need to go through all this?" "So that you don't lose your legs. If I wasn't an athlete, it would have saved me 10 to 20 years, but I would still have to have surgery. So it's good that I had this surgery while I was young." Doctors could not understand whether it was congenital or the consequences of some kind of injury. Probably both you and all of the spectators have noticed that when I skate, I have a big arch in my back. It's called lordosis. Yes, but everything is much worse for me. Due to the pressure on the back, 2 vertebrae were aligned. They were straightened and fixed with screws so that I'd not have to ride in a wheelchair soon. Well, we have figured out what happened with Dima's back. But what about Polly with her leg? Well, this was probably due to my stupidity, said Panfilova. One day, while Dima was not in training, I decided to go jumping. Although I could not go at all, since there is no partner. I think not I'll go, otherwise my conscience will torment me. So I began to warm up on the steps. Unsuccessfully, I jumped on it. My leg did not fully stand up, and it fell off. It crunched very strongly, but moved, and I decided that everything was fine. I jumped about 5 more times, and in the locker room, after a warm-up, I understood that my leg is swollen. I took off my sneakers, my sock, and there the bone, near the big toe, is 3 times larger than the right one. I told Pavel Sergeyevich Slusharenko that I couldn't even put my foot in the skate. With tears, I went to the emergency room. They told me it was a sprain. Stay at home for a week. I sit for a week. 2. Nothing goes away. I went to different doctors, took x-rays, waited another 2 weeks, and I'm waiting. Nothing good is happening. In general, in 3 months, not a single doctor diagnosed me. My dad has connections in several countries where he travels for treatment, and he suggested that I go to Israel. There they explained to me that it was a fracture, but it had already healed incorrectly because a lot of fluid had accumulated. The bone atrophied, the muscle atrophied, something like that. This could have been avoided if I had been correctly diagnosed right away. But in the end, instead of a month of absence, it turned out to be almost 7. Dmitry Rylov told how their relationship with coach Pavel Slusharenko unraveled. When I came down with my back, the first month, the coach was very supportive. Directly, he told us, "Come on, guys, we will get through this together." And when I was discharged after the operation and the first rehabilitation and we came to talk, we felt as if there was no such desire anymore. You could feel this emptiness on some mental level. After another 2 to 3 months, during the conversation, I asked a direct question. Do you believe in us? Does this make sense to continue? He replied yes. But later, we did not see this desire. There was no such connection between three people, which there was there before, when we were all united and striving for one goal. Perhaps he stopped believing or became disillusioned with us. We do not blame him in any way, and we do not make any claims against him. We have a big group. People continue to live their lives, and he needed to work on. At first it was a little insulting, as everyone would feel, but after a while, I think that perhaps in his place, we would have done the same. It's just that we've never been there and don't know. The journalist asked, could this be connected with Pavel Sergeyevich's parallel work in Moscow? He has a very high workload and responsibility. We don't know that, but he certainly took on a big burden. There are 2 groups in Perm, senior and junior. Plus, there is his cooperation with the Terry Tuberidze. Perhaps at some point he really burned out. But here everything is too complicated for us. I couldn't continue to believe in a couple that hadn't even hit the ice yet, and it's generally not known what would happen to us, said Rylov. World champions among juniors in pair skating, Alena Kostornaia and Dmitry Rylov, said that they never thought about changing sport citizenship. The skaters announced their retirement on January 5th. Thoughts about changing citizenship have never been. I had thoughts about changing the coach. I don't see anything wrong with that, but this is life. But I thought that there was no one to go to, said Rylov. I never came up with the idea of changing the coach. There was no need for it. Now it's too late to talk about it, said Panfilova. Who's talking about it? Olympic champion in ice dancing, Natalia Besmianova commented on the decision of Apollinaria Panfilova and Dmitry Rylov to end their careers in true Russian fashion. Panfilova and Rylov are the 2020 World Junior Pair Champions. They haven't performed for so long that the announcement of their retirement is somehow even ridiculous to hear. In fact, they ended their careers a long time ago, so it was difficult to expect something from them now, said Besmianova.